And welcome to tonight's edition of the One Hood Power Hour. I am your co-host Kahari Mosley, here with my illustrious colleague Miracle Jones, and we have another great episode of the Power Hour tonight, focusing on advocacy, access, and transportation. And before we get into the headlines, can we give folks just a quick sneak preview of what we have in store this evening after we go through all of the political news there is to talk about here in the state of Pennsylvania?
Yes. So as you know, Pittsburgh right now we're going through this renovations and changes with investment from the Build Back Better Act. There's still an ongoing conversation of infrastructure. We know the Fern Hollow Bridge is coming back hopefully by the end of the year. The administration just announced. But, coming off of open streets, there's still this ongoing conversation of accessibility when it comes to our streets, particularly around the ease and access of those who are cycling through as transportation. There's, again, an ongoing conversation about transportation infrastructure that we had, on our last episode. And so that's what we're going to be talking about with the executive director of Bike Pittsburgh, a local advocacy organization that is really doing innovative ways and studies and bringing people together and hosting events to push for better bike access. I know people sometimes just think of bike access of the bike lanes, but it's far more than that. And so we'll be having a conversation around with the executive director around 7:20. But like Kari said, there's a lot to get to today. So we had a great, busy weekend, but still there's a lot of things we still have to discuss, unfortunately, as we are now at 100 days until the November election. Kari?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, we had a really great event. Actually two great events within One Hood family on Friday. The Fridays on Deck event at Liberty Green over in the East End, went really well Friday night. And then Saturday, we had the People, Politics, and Power pop up at Be Social in East Liberty. And, both events, were really, really incredible and really a great, way to kick off, the last 100 days before the November elections. And jumping into elections, there's been a lot of coverage this past week on Doug Mastriano, the Republican candidate for governor's association with the online hub called Gab. And Gab, became known here and throughout the world through its connection to the man who committed the really terrible situation over at the Tree of Life, the one who shot a number of the congregants and, was really, a worldwide tragic event. Well, there was a relationship, between that shooter and the Gab website, often accessing that website, using that website as a platform for hate speech, as well as to, create kind of a campfire among others who were interested in that kind of activity. So, there was a lot of controversy to the Mastriano campaign. The head of Gab has been, found to make numerous anti-Semitic comments over the years, and some very recently. So the Mastriano campaign has really been looking to try to distance themselves from this website that they paid money to advertise for their campaign in the primary. So, definitely was a lot of news coverage this past week, on that issue. Miracle, do you have any reaction to the latest controversy involving the Mastriano campaign?
Yes, there's an ongoing conversation about how divisive the election is going to be as we roll into 2020. We know that the Tree of Life was one of, if not the most deadly anti Semitic attack that's happened within the United States border. And so a lot of people are rightly concerned about associations with organizations. We know that Pittsburgh is on the list of places and areas that have a number of white supremacist organizations, active, armed, and potentially violent white supremacist organizations. And so this is causing a cause for concern. Mastriano uh, essentially denounced the attacks on him and said that no matter how vile the statements are, they fall within the First Amendment. Did not really go into detail about why he was on Gab, what he was doing with Gab, and why he partnered with that media platform. And so this is going to be, said, like an ongoing conversation, just because a lot of people are rightfully concerned about the messaging and the association as we wind down to November. And, as people are also focused on Mastriano, they're also talking about, our lovely Senate campaign as well. Pennsylvania is getting news all across the world about like our Senate race that's happening between Fetterman and Oz. And there's been a lot of people talking about the use of social media, as well as the way the campaigns are going when there's going to be debates. How are the candidates differing from each other? What are some of the policies and procedures? There was a couple of op-eds that came out over the weekend asking for more substantive policies from Fetterman. And also when it comes to Oz, there is some questions about, the Armenian genocide and what his policy is going to be, because he would be the first Turkish Muslim senator if he was elected representing Pennsylvania. However, there's an ongoing international issue when it comes to Turkey and the Armenian genocide. And this is something outside of identity would directly impact a potential vote or vote to recognize the genocides, a lot, even though some of those are ceremonial. And so we're getting to start to see that contentiousness outside of just memes and social media antics actually pour into the substantive issues of the election. Gary?
Yeah, and that was a lot of great information about the Senate race. As many of you know, the social media has played a big role currently in the general election, from Stevie Van Zandt to Snooki, to various other New Jersey celebrities doing social media on behalf of John Fetterman's campaign to highlight what some perceive as Dr. Oz's deeper connections to the state of New Jersey versus his connections to the state of Pennsylvania. So along that ongoing campaign, within the campaign, the Team Fetterman continues to, really try to drive the message home that Dr. Oz is actually a New Jerseyite and not a Pennsylvanian, and is continuing to come up with very clever ways on social media to drive that message home. And it appears that it is, having some, traction. It showed that a large number of Pennsylvanians, there was a poll recently taken that showed a large number of Pennsylvanians did have concerns about Dr. Oz's ability to understand Pennsylvania and the issues, and be connected, to the people. And obviously that's, directly related to, the perception of some that, that he doesn't have, as deep ties to Pennsylvania as maybe he would like, voters to feel. So, we continue to watch that, as well as, and the Inquirer had a story, talking about the kind of early steps folks are taking to pursue the office of mayor in the city of Philadelphia. Incumbent Mayor Jim Kenney is term limited, so it will be an open seat in 2023, and a variety of candidates are lining up. No one has announced yet, so because in the city of Philadelphia, particularly I think believe for those in city government, such as the city controller or city council members, they have the resign to run clause. So anyone in city government currently that holds an elected position would have to resign their position in order to run for mayor. So it is thought that uh, any potential candidates are going to wait till the very, very end of the year to see where they're at financially, to see, where they're at from a viability standpoint before they take the drastic step of resigning their seat and, basically betting on themselves that they can win, the primary, knowing that if they lose, then, they will not, be an office holder by this time going into 2024. So, yeah, a lot going on. Anything else going on in the world of politics, Miracle, that you're paying attention to?
Yes, and turning more to like the federal side of things, as our Congress is kind of headed to their summer recession, a lot of focus is going to be on Nancy Pelosi as she travels around to talk to different elected officials within Asia. One thing that people are really looking at is whether or not she is going to visit Taiwan. Unfortunately, there is still an ongoing dispute about if is Taiwan an independent democratic state or is it a part of China? And so traditionally U.S. officials really do not visit Taiwan on the official trips for official business. However, there is rumors that this may be the first time that this happens. And again, we just saw some of the protests in Sri Lanka. China has said that Taiwan is their property, their entity, their jurisdiction, and has basically said officially recognizing Taiwan may result as an act of war. And so there is some ongoing conversations about what that means, not only on social media but in various official capacities, official circles. And so that's something that we have to keep paying attention to. We know that there's already the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine that has of course led to disruptions in supply chain as well as issues around gas and oil. And so, what that would mean for the US economy if China becomes an active participant in open, hostile actions to the US as we move to this November election. So, there's a lot of things that we have to pay attention to, on an international basis because it still impacts us here at home. And so you'll see a lot of coverage in the next few days about where Nancy Pelosi goes, who she talks to, and what country she visits in her official capacity.
Yeah, thank you for that quick rundown on international politics. And so now we're going to bring on our esteemed guest for tonight's conversation. That's Scott Bricker, Executive Director of Bike Pittsburgh, a local advocacy organization that has really done a lot of very important work over the last several years and even more deeper into our city's history to really advocate for bikes, to advocate for access for bike riders, and really is helping to transform the culture of the city by providing to really get the folks of the city to think differently about the role that bike transportation plays in the city and how it can help enhance the economy, but also support quality of life issues as well. So we're really excited to bring on Scott Bricker. Welcome to the One Hood Power Hour.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is great.
Miriam, you want to start with the first question?
Yes. So, okay. You mentioned a little bit earlier, you just coming off of Open Streets Pittsburgh on the last one of the summer. But you just talk a little bit about, the work of Bike Pittsburgh and why it's so important for this region.
Yeah. So we are a 20-year-old bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization. I know that, we're called Bike Pittsburgh, but we spend equal amount of time making our streets and neighborhoods safer for people to walk as well as bike. we see them as equal modes of non-motorized transportation. We were started 20 years ago as a bicycle-only advocacy organization, and we added pedestrian advocacy about 15 years ago. So we've been doing this work for a long time. We focus on three core focal areas, which are advocacy, education, and community. So advocacy is policy change, infrastructure change. Education is educating both bicyclists of all ages, but also drivers on how to coexist safely on our streets. And then community building, our community program, you just mentioned our Open Streets Pittsburgh event series. That's part of it. It's really about bringing people together. So we have a membership program. We have fun bike rides. We have a women and non-binary program. We have Open Streets, Bike to Work Day, Bike to Work Week. So we have things like that really help bring people together who are interested in this work. Get to know the organization and get involved in our advocacy to make change.
Now, can you give us a quick recap of how Open Streets went this weekend for those who were out in the East Liberty area like we were? We had our pop-up event about a block down from Highland, and we could see like just a huge kind of throngs of people, coming up Highland Avenue as part of that circuit that was created specifically for that day. So tell us a little bit about the recap and what were some of the major highlights from this past weekend.
So for your audience who don't know what Open Streets is, it's not a typical event. All we do is shut down the street to cars, and people can use them however they see fit. And it's mostly biking, walking, running, rolling around on any type of wheeled vehicle that's non-motorized. And so we got thousands of people this last weekend, 5 different neighborhoods, Homewood, North Point Breeze, Shady Side, East Liberty, and Larmer, all connected in a large loop. It was our longest Open Streets event at almost 4.5 miles. And it's just a way for us to introduce people to safe streets in a way where like cars aren't breathing down our necks. And I think we just get used to cars being everywhere in America. And more and more cities are investing in safer streets, safer street infrastructure, but also pedestrianized streets and removing just our car dependency a little bit. So I think Open Streets is kind of like experiential marketing for people to see what life could be like if maybe cars weren't just absolutely everywhere. So yeah, there were 3 different events hubs. The one in Homewood was the Arts and Culture Hub. Point Breeze-ish area, I guess it's kind of close between Point Breeze and Shady Side, was the Health and Wellness Hub, where there were lots of classes, yoga and Zumba and tons of like workout classes and stuff like that. And then I was stationed at the Kids and Family Hub in East Liberty, where there's a learn how to ride area for kids. just a way to really bring people together to enjoy our streets in a new way. And so that's really the event series in a nutshell. We do 3 of them every summer, except during COVID. We did 1 last summer in Hazelwood, 0 in 2020, but for the last 6 years, besides COVID time, we've done 3 every summer, end of May, June, and July.
Thank you. And as Kari said, there was like thousands of people really out over the weekend. Can you just talk a little bit about how accessibility has changed, particularly here in Pittsburgh over the past couple of years?
Yeah, sure. I might expand that a little bit just to paint the picture of what it was like 20 years ago when we started the organization. There were 3 bike lanes in the entire city, and they went to or around parks. So they were designed to be very recreational. It wasn't about transportation. It wasn't getting from point A to point B, unless you're going to a park. That's great. We also, bikes are fun. You want to go to a park, you want to get some exercise, perfect. But bikes are, utilitarian forms of transportation. We try to, get people to work, to the grocery store, to their friends' homes, to a shopping area, to healthcare. Biking and walking are the two most affordable modes of transportation, and they've, for decades and decades, they were all but designed out of our existence in all throughout America. We're not special here in Pittsburgh, but we plan for nothing but cars for a good 70 years here. So this is about reclaiming some of that real estate away from the car, not eliminating cars. Cars are going to be with us for the rest of our lives, but how do we make it safer for people to choose a different mode of transportation, a more sustainable, healthy mode of transportation? And there's already thousands of people who are dependent on walking and biking to get around, to get to transit, to access healthcare, to get to work. So how do we enhance that environment for people who are already using these modes of transportation, and then creating an environment that's less stressful and a lot safer for more and more people to choose these arguably better modes of transportation than the ones that are causing climate change and poor air quality and crashes on our streets that are taking people's lives and causing injuries.
And can you talk a little bit about, from a broader perspective, how having increased bike ridership in a city's landscape, how does that enhance cities economically, culturally? What are some of the other things that the average person who may even drive past the biker coming down Dallas Avenue and get a little upset? What are they missing about how the city really benefits from having increased bike ridership?
Yeah, so that gets to the second part of the question, I guess, which is how do we get more people riding, and what has changed? And really, we've been advocating for bike lanes of all types. In the early days, we were experimenting with things called shared lane markings, which really don't make that many people feel safer, it turns out. To all the way to protected bike lanes and a more connected trail system. So what does that do? So that carves out actual real estate on the street or next to a street that helps people feel safer and less stressed out to choose these modes of transportation. When we hear from people like why they don't ride a bike, the answer is cars. They don't want to get hit by cars. And so we're creating an environment where those conflicts happen less frequently, and more people feel safe enough to get around by bike. And that enhances things like what you're saying, Kahari, the local economy. There's been studies from a number of different cities that have a bit more capacity to do such studies. That people on bikes, we actually shop more often. We might not be able to fill up an SUV with a ton of stuff, but we actually stop at businesses more frequently. And over the course of a month, we spend more money in local business districts than people driving. So there is like an actual benefit to businesses. A lot of people think that they're 100% of their customers arrive by car, and that's just simply not true. A lot of people arrive by public transit. A lot of people walk to businesses. A lot of people bike to businesses. And now more and more you'll see people show up to, on on scooters, on spin scooters. So that's the mobility mix that we want to really enhance with bike infrastructure. And I'd argue that bike infrastructure is actually really good for all modes of transportation. Traffic calming in our neighborhoods, bike lanes, they all reduce crashes, no matter if you're on a bike, if you're walking, or if you're driving. The studies show that all of these things enhance the overall safety of our streets. So that that also helps get more people out walking around. When people are walking around, they'll frequent a business. So that has a direct economic effect. And then there's the tourism thing, but we don't have to get into that too. But people do go to cities to ride bikes, and we are at the center of, we are connected to DC famously through the Great Allegheny Passage. Those trail towns, there was just an economic study by the organization that that developed the Great Allegheny Passage, that $23 million a year is generated from that trail system. Well, Pittsburgh is one of the bookends to that trail. And so what if we greatly enhanced our investment in trails and connected more communities outside of Pittsburgh to Pittsburgh, so that more and more people are enjoying the city from all around the region.
Thank you. I think actually Kahari may have biked that trail before, but you mentioned, the studies, and y'all recently did a study, and we're going to pull up some of the slides that we can go through, because I think a lot of times people just see like the bike lanes and they get like very like irate, but they don't understand that we're saving lives. And so, John, if you could actually pull up some of those slides, and Scott, if you can just walk through like what was this. Why did you think it was like so important to put this information out to the public?
Yeah, so in 2015, we did a crash study, and we're actually updating it this year. So we want to do this every 5 years. So this was a 5-year study, but we looked into the crashes that were taking place along Penn Avenue before and after a bike lane intervention by the city. So the city put in, they took out a eastbound car lane, or a shared lane. People could ride bikes in it too, but it's essentially a car lane from downtown Pittsburgh to the Strip District to 16th. The city removed that and made it a bi-directional bike lane, and we just were curious what happened as a result. So one thing, over the course of, I think it was 3 years or so, 4 years, there were 1 million rides on it. So the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership put pneumatic tubes and counted how many people were biking. So number one, contrary to, the comment section of WPXI or whatever, that nobody rides in the bike lane, there were 1 million trips in the bike lane during that time. What we also found by looking at city and PennDOT crash data was that it greatly reduced the amount of pedestrian crashes between people walking and people driving. So these do have an actual, a really positive effect on people's health and wellness and the safety of our streets.
Thank you for that. And I wanted to ask, a bit of a selfish question. As Marco said, I have made it. I think I want to say as far down as Confluence. I think, if my memory serves me right, down on the Great Allegheny Passage, the Gap Trail. What would be your advice to anyone who would be interested in actually taking that trek from Pittsburgh, from the Point, all the way down to Georgetown and in Washington, D.C.? Have you done it yourself, or do you know folks who have done it? And, what's the kind of do's and don'ts for taking that? I think it's 335-mile trek from Pittsburgh down to the Georgetown section of D.C.
I think I'm the only person who hasn't done this at this point. I have not. I've gone as far as Ohiopyle, and I've camped overnight, but I know so many people who've done it, and there's some helpful guides online. It depends if you want to camp, or stay in B&Bs. There's a lot of different options. There's, you don't have to do it all in one fell swoop. You could do it in pieces, or you could just do a bike overnight, which is a really great place to start if you're a little nervous about, say, camping on your bike. So I'd first say, they, we have an online message board on our website, but we're slowly phasing it out because, to be honest, the Pittsburgh Reddit bicycling board, I think it's called 412 Bicycling or Bicycling 412, is so much more like the technology is really good. There's a lot of people on it. There's a lot of friendly people who can answer questions like this. So like talking to someone who's done it is really, really helpful. There's a certain amount of gear that you probably need, but also, Golden Triangle bicycle rentals, they rent people bikes to do these things. I'm not sure if they have like camping equipment and things like that, but they might. I'd say Three Rivers Outdoors Company in Regent Square, REI, some companies like that would have a lot of really great advice on how to do this. But there's also a book. It's like called Bicycling the Great Allegheny Passage or something like that. We have some copies at the office, and if someone's interested watching this, write me at scott@bikepgh.org and I'll just mail you one. I don't know how many we have. I bet we have like maybe a dozen of them, but it's really helpful to just get sort of like an idea. Talk to Kahari. You've done it. You might have some good advice for folks who, there's a lot of lessons learned in bike touring. And I would just say, talking to people who've done it is probably the easiest way to get a sense of what to expect along the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a little more of a difficult question because I know we're talking about some of the wins and the expansions, but we know, like in Pittsburgh, past month and a half, we've had a number of fatalities associated not only with pedestrians but with people being hit on bikes. And so, can you just talk a little bit about, as people who may not be bikers, what are some of the safety things that they need to be doing to be safe drivers? And what are some of the things that your constituents are talking about that they're experiencing as, they're trying to get to work or visit these businesses or participate in like some of these events, just because a lot of people don't have the information and knowledge about even pedestrian and biker safety?
Yeah, there's a real like serious side to the work we do, and it's pretty sobering when we get word that, like last week when a 6-year-old child was hit and killed while riding his bike in Glen Hazel neighborhood of Pittsburgh. It's heartbreaking. It's that child's not going to get to, experience all those things in life that, those things that make life so worth living, and it's really sad that we don't know the circumstances around this particular crash, but, the work we're focused on is trying to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries. So that's why we are so focused on implementing the city's Bike Plus plan and the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, 2 plans that we worked for many, many years to get passed. And also, we're so supportive of the city's traffic calming program. But here's the thing. There have been 900 requests for traffic calming since they launched that program a handful of years ago. But the city doesn't have enough personnel and financial resources to address 900 traffic calming requests. They've been able to date to do a little less than 30 of them. So it's one of the things that we're pushing for with the new Gainey administration. Kahari, you and I were both on the transportation and infrastructure and environment transition team for Mayor Gainey. Something that I was very vocal about in our meetings was like, we need to get more resources to this traffic calming program. So, while we might not be able to do 900 in the foreseeable future as a city, what if we were able to, I think the number is about 27 that they've been able to install to date of these traffic calming, like speed humps, curb bump outs, things like this that really slow down cars. What if we were able to do 27 a year, not 27 every 3 years? So we're really focused on, ramping up the speed in which this stuff is done, so that more people, we save more lives. It's as simple as that.
And is there any other policy prescriptions you haven't mentioned yet that also can, particularly from a public safety standpoint, make the interaction between cars and bikes more safe?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're pushing for is, some people have seen, a lot of people have seen the flex posts that are delineating between bike lanes and the driving lane. We want to harden some of those features, make it so that cars can't easily run over them. That's one thing. We want to protect more bike lanes that are completely just unprotected, like, that are just white painted lines. We want to start protecting those. I think putting in curbs whenever possible, elevating bike lanes to, sidewalk level, but keeping it separated from pedestrians is preferable to a lot of the types of infrastructure we have. We have pretty narrow and hilly areas in this city, so we have fewer options, I'd say, than some like very wide grid-like cities that have 5 lanes across, 6 lanes across, right? So I don't think we're going to be getting a complete 100+ miles of protected infrastructure, but we do want to see increased investment and upgrading all the bike lanes that can be upgraded, and form a cohesive, legible network so that people can get on a bike lane and not just be dumped out into like a busy intersection to fend for themselves and then to pick up a different style of bike lane. I think we need to really focus on how do we get people from point A to point B as simply and as legibly and as comfortably as possible on a bike. So those are the types of things that we're really pushing for, is, fill in the missing gaps. There's another 120+ miles of bike lanes and trails that are called for in the Bike Plus plan, the City of Pittsburgh's Bike Plus plan. That's going to make a huge difference to how people get around once it's in. So that's one of the many things that we're really focused on right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday just to talk about a lot of this amazing work that you're doing. You gave some really good resources, but if people want to get in contact with you, learn more about Bike PGH, can you share your information?
Yeah, so you can email me directly at scott@bikepgh.org. We have a website, bikepgh.org, and we also we have a lot of programs. We have neighborhood bike ped advisory committees that, I shouldn't say we have them, we help facilitate them. They run independently of Bike Pittsburgh, but say you live in the South Side, there's a South Side bike ped committee. So not every neighborhood has, these are volunteer run, so not everyone has started one in their neighborhood, but more and more have been starting every single year. I think there's about 24 now. So getting involved in your local bike ped committee to have your voice heard, to help if you're concerned and want to get bike lanes or more traffic calming in your neighborhood, we can help you. It's, we do trainings, we do advocacy trainings, we do, we help people brainstorm campaigns to get stuff done in their neighborhoods. So, community organizing stuff we can help you with, get you in touch with the right elected officials, their staffs. I'm sure stuff that you do here as well, but we also do it.
Kahari?
Yeah, I want to thank Scott for joining us again. And you can go to bikepittsburgh.org or email Scott directly, Scott@bikepittsburgh. Once again, Scott Bricker, Executive Director of Bike Pittsburgh, joining us tonight on the One Hood Power Hour. Thanks so much for joining us and taking some extra time and having an extra long conversation with us. We really appreciate you sharing your insight and all the wonderful work that Bike Pittsburgh does.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And again, that was Scott Bricker, Executive Director of Bike Pittsburgh, sharing with us a whole variety of information from research to public policy to the many programs that they run to make Pittsburgh more bike friendly and to enhance Pittsburgh's cultural, social, and economic landscape by enhancing the variety of transportation options for city residents.
Yes, and like he said, there was a tragic incident that happened last week with 6-year-old Jamal Austin. Jamal Austin. We've put the GoFundMe from the family in the chat so that you can donate if you're able to. But it's also very important when people talk about transportation, just to understand that this is something that impacts all of us, particularly our youth, right? So some of our youth are not old enough to get a driver's license, right? They're not old enough to take a Lyft or Uber. Sometimes they don't have the funding to access, public transportation. So they do use bikes. They're walking, and so having these calming measures is something that really impacts, our communities, particularly those who are not driving. And again, like he was saying, people are using their bikes to go to the grocery store, to visit neighbors, to be within their communities and their neighborhoods. And this is something that we've seen has really impacted our community members. We know that when there is tragedy, sometimes there's a delay in ambulances responding, there's a delay in medical care. And so these calming measures, even though a lot of people sometimes are hesitant when they first see them, have a direct impact to the safety and well-being of our communities. And so it's very important that we have this ongoing conversation, especially, as school is about to start, at the end of the month. We're going to see a lot more youth back into the city, a lot more youth using some of these alternative means of transportation to get to school and back and get to some of their after-school jobs. So it's very important that we wanted to have and highlight this conversation this evening. Kahari?
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Miracle. As we mentioned, so much stuff to cover, but again, do want to send my condolences out as well to Jamal Austin's family for that very tragic incident in Hazelwood, and highlights the reason of why we need to make sure that we make biking safe, for all riders across the city and all neighborhoods. So that really highlights the importance of the investment in that infrastructure. Because again, as Miracle said, there's just some city residents that can't afford to get in a car. Sometimes they can't even afford, to get a bus or a Lyft. They gotta actually get on their bike and ride to where they're going, whether that's their job or, whether that's the store to get a few items to cook for that evening, or, for some folks to get, back and forth to school in an efficient manner. So, the more that we invest in that kind of diverse infrastructure, the more that we can provide options and improve the quality of life, for all of our citizens, not just those that can afford to purchase and operate motor vehicles. Miracle, is there anything else that we should cover? I guess one thing that we could talk a little bit about is Netroots Nation is coming to Pittsburgh in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from this coming Thursday, and there will be a ton of plenary sessions and actually post kind of conference events in the evening throughout the city of Pittsburgh. A variety of venues will be hosting events as well. You got Summer Lee and Ed Gainey, and even a number of us at Hood, myself, Miracle, and Jasiri will also be presenting at this conference. Miracle, is there anything else that we should know a couple weeks out about Netroots Nation?
Yes, and we'll post the link in the chat, but there's going to be a series of events, some for that you can purchase, but also some that are discounted for local people who live here. There's different promo codes, so please make sure you go in and register. This is time to learn from other organizations all across the country, to think about what does it mean to do advocacy and engagement. What does it mean to talk and actually build power? So it's a really great opportunity. And so we hope that you sign up. We hope that you join Netroots Nation 2022. Like I said, of One Hood Power, we will be in the building. We're actually going to be streaming. I mean, not streaming. We'll do some type of streaming, doing some interviews. We'll also be vending there. So please make sure you come by and see us. And so we do have some more announcements. We know that today is August 1st. And so for the organizing community, this is basically the launch of Black August. Black August refers to actual protests done by a lot of Black civil rights leaders, particularly those who were incarcerated, like George Jackson and others who basically started a whole movement during August. And so you'll see a lot of events, a lot of protests going around, not only just prison conditions and abolition, but also about civil rights and things that are happening right now. A lot of conversations around like anti-racism and bigotry, and stopping bigotry and pushing back against violence. And so that's what Black August is. It's something that people observe in a variety of ways, from personal growth to protest. So we just want to just uplift that, and also in recognizing protests here in Pittsburgh. We had the unfortunate news that Jack, who was a well-known public defense attorney, particularly for those involved in protest and uprising, unfortunately passed away over the weekend. And so we want to acknowledge the work he did around like abolition and anarchy and equity through his legal activism and support, and give our deepest condolences to his friends and family as they grieve this unexpected tragedy. And we just want to take a moment to acknowledge that passing. And I'll turn it back over to Kahari to talk a little bit more about some things that are happening up in Pittsburgh, and why you need to make sure you are take care of yourself as we move throughout these coming weeks.
Thank you, Miracle. And also wanted to give a quick reminder that the People Power and Politics event series is going to continue. The one we did this past Saturday, we will do that every last Saturday of the month, through the election, and have some really exciting announcements to make in the coming weeks about that event series of some special guests and some other things that are going to be happening at upcoming versions of that. But I really want to give a shout out to the folks at Be Social and Social Status for being such gracious hosts and really holding us down and really making the vibe at those events super just lovely. That was a lovely event, and also every Friday. Fridays on deck at Liberty Green as well. It's going to continue to happen. So, the events are really starting to pump up. This kind of summer break is ending. We're in August. It's almost back to school. It's almost back to be election season time. Kind of halftime is over. The teams are coming out on the field for the second half. They use a football metaphor, and that's kind of where we're at in the calendar. The events are really going to start to pick up. The activity is going to start to really pick up. From voter registration. Making sure that you register before October 24th, or if you want to update your registration because you moved, if you change your name and want to do a name change, or you want to change how you're affiliated with a party, or change your party affiliation on your voter registration card. You have an opportunity to do all of that before October 24th. That is the deadline this year. We're going to be doing, a ton of activity, and we actually we're going to be doing a special pop up on that would be the 24th the 22nd of October. We're going to do a special pop up, which is be 2 days before the deadline. So we're going to be doing, a pop up then. We're going to do a pop up right before the election, and we're also going to be doing parties at the polls. So there's going to be a lot of activity between now and November 8th. And we're really excited, about the opportunity to get more and more people involved with the civic process. So definitely, stay tuned. Look out for, online links to voter registration, the QR codes, as well as a lookout for us out at public events, with iPads and notebooks, collecting information to register the people to vote. So, think we're just really, really, really getting started this month, and you're going to see a huge uptick in activity as we get closer and closer to November. So back to you, Miracle.
Yes, and I do apologize. We do have a lot of events happening rundown. Last week we had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. McGon from the Central Outreach Wellness. And since that interview, wanted to announce that Central Outreach Wellness, as well as Allies for Public Health and Wellbeing, both now are testing for the monkeypox virus, as well as both are offering the monkeypox vaccine. Requirements to get the vaccine may vary, so please reach out to both of those nonprofit organizations to sign up for your monkeypox vaccine. As a reminder, anyone can grab and can contract that virus. It's not only targeting one community, so you just want to make sure you reach out for that health information. In addition, we talked about being outside. We know COVID-19 is still here, and a lot of people did have concerns about the COVID-19 vaccine. Recently, the Allegheny County Health Department announced that they have another vaccine available to the public that is more similar to the flu vaccine. So for people who just do not trust the technology of the most recent, Moderna vaccines, you can now contact the health department for alternative vaccine that is now available within Allegheny County. In addition, we're going to pull up a couple of flyers that we received the various community members, because we understand that there's a lot of things going on in our community and people need different resources. So the first is there is going to be a health event this weekend, this Friday and Saturday at the convention center, starting at 6 a.m. for free eye exams, hearing care, and dental screenings. No insurance is required. And again, people are asking if you can to wear a mask, because you'll be outside and you'll be around other people. But this is a free event. If you go to Mom PGH, you can sign up. Another event that is happening, we'll pull up the next flyer, is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Progress PA is hosting a Protest the Patriarchy rally in front of the post office in Wexford. This is an ongoing action just to talk about the rights to have reproductive care here in Pennsylvania. right now, there is not any changes to the way you're able to access reproductive care in Pennsylvania. There is a lot of legislation pending, as well as a potential amendment process happening next election cycle. But right now, there is no change to care access in Pennsylvania. But because that is something that may change this next election cycle, people are rallying and trying to encourage elected officials to codify the right to reproductive care in Pennsylvania. And lastly, there is this weekend, October 3rd, in Shinley Plaza, the Community Food Bank is actually going to be giving out groceries. So for people, we know it is a rough time. We're going, through a recession and inflation, and a lot of people don't have, funding to meet some of their daily needs and household items. And so the Community Food Bank will be out, and you can walk up, you can drive through and get a community food box, again, at no cost to you or your family members. So for people who are in need of food for them and their families, or even their friends and their neighbors, please stop by Shinley Plaza to get your free food box. And again, anyone and everyone at any point in time may need support and resources and help. So please reach out to any of these organizations if you need any type of assistance. As we know, like I said, times are hard for everyone. And I'll turn it back over to you, Kahari.
Thank you for that, Miracle. I want to thank Scott Bricker from Bike Pittsburgh for joining this evening, and want to thank everyone who's been viewing via live stream, as well as thank producer John for making it happen. This has been your latest edition of the One Hood Power Hour, our summer recess series. We will be getting back to the candidates forums and even more politics as we get closer to Labor Day. But want to thank everyone for joining us. Want to thank Scott Bricker for joining us as well. And before we head out, Miracle has one more announcement, and then we're gonna see you next Monday.
Yes, like Kari said, we are launching our candidate forum in a little over a month. We invite all candidates who make the ballot to participate. If you are a third-party candidate, please, please, please make sure you not only get your signatures, but your paperwork submitted in time. If you are not qualified to run for the position, we cannot guarantee your participation. Sometimes people miss the filing deadline and then try to run as a write-in candidate. We may not be able to guarantee your participation in these forums at this time. So please, please, please make sure everything is submitted and on time so you can engage the forums and get your message to the community. And with that, I hope you all have a great evening. Have a good night. Kari.
Thank you, Miracle. And once again, thanks Scott Bricker from Bike Pittsburgh. Thanks producer John. Thanks everyone for joining us. Catch us next Monday at 7 p.m. for the One Hood Power Hour. Stay tuned during the week for updates about who will be joining us. But thanks again, and as always, thank you to Miracle Jones, my esteemed colleague, for joining us. And you can always go to onehoodpower.org and make your donations, as well as go on our YouTube site and subscribe as a follower, so we can continue, to spread, our audience, not only here in Pittsburgh, but around the country and in some cases around the world. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next Monday. This has been the One Hood Power Hour. On behalf of Miracle Jones, this is Kahari Mosley. Take care. Have a wonderful night.